This is our ranking of every time travel episode in Family Guy, going from worst to best, starting with one of the latest episodes in season 23, Hard Times at Adam West High, where Brian uses Stewie's time machine to help Chris after a certain part of his body stands at attention. So everyone's talking about their day at dinner, and it sounds like Chris's was quite the experience.
I had to give an oral book report in front of my English class, but it was right when I was at full mast.
Knowing Chris, he probably heard the word oral and couldn't contain himself. And after that public humiliation, Chris believes the best course of action is to leave town.
I think my only option is to move away forever.
What? Wait, is this about what happened with your book report?
I'm sure this isn't the only time Chris's problem has gotten him into trouble, so really this move may be best for everybody. But Brian does have a way to fix this.
Stewie and I built a time machine.
You did? How?
Well, I was always really good at Legos.
By that, he means he was really good at mistaking them for dropped food and eating them.
Maybe you and I travel back in time to this morning and give you a do-over on your book report.
So Brian goes against Stewie's wishes and uses the time machine, but it doesn't go without problems.
DNA mismatch. Enter secondary voice password within 20 seconds to prevent self-destruct.
Yeah, my car has the same protocol too. But what in the infinite number of word combinations could the passphrase be?
Yes, Queen.
I guess Stewie must have set that passcode back in 2020. Or the writers just came out of their 5-year coma. Either way, probably a good time to update the password.
Welcome to 16 hours ago. So, how does it feel to be living in the past?
Such a beautiful time to be alive. I remember it as if it were 16 hours ago.
We just have to head off your past self so you can give the book report instead.
He has to do what to his past self? I thought they were trying to keep Chris's excitement down. Oh, wait, they just mean take his place.
I'm 100% fine with whatever this is. I just go where I'm told.
So with past Chris in the closet, future Chris nails his book report.
Chris, I may have to fail you.
Like I said, nailed it. So they return home to a very disappointed Stewie.
Trust me, there's nothing to worry about.
You sure about that?
Good God, who let the Toxic Avenger in here? I know he has a new movie coming out, but please, a trigger warning next time. So originally, what had happened was Meg was distracted by the laughing at Chris's performance, which caused her to miss getting a face full of chemicals.
Coming from Chris's classroom, Meg never turned her head away, ensuring that her face would absorb the full brunt of the explosion.
Honestly, she wasn't even wearing goggles, so she probably deserved it. Still mad I never got to make explosive chemicals in chemistry class like in cartoons. So they return to the past to try to prevent yet another tragedy, which means they need the Chris with the, more excitable nature.
It seems that given even a few minutes alone in a locked closet, Chris, took matters into his own hands.
Look, if there had to be a place to do that, I guess the best place would be where all the cleaning supplies are. So it looks like the current Chris will have to step in.
Chris, we've got less than 1 minute to get you aroused.
Okay.
Just normal brotherly things. But Chris manages to get himself going, successfully preventing Meg from getting her face blown off.
What's everyone laughing about?
Well, not this episode. That was a little harsh, as this episode does provide some silly butterfly effect setups, but overall, it doesn't hold a candle to the rest of the time travel episodes. But time travel is so ingrained in Family Guy's DNA that they'll probably never stop. And Stewie never stopped regretting his decision to destroy his time machine, as it would later lead to the death of Brian in Life of Brian. So things start a little crazy, with Brian and Stewie being chased by Native Americans with guns.
You went back to 17th century Jamestown and you gave guns to the Indians, and now they're running everything.
And somehow Stewie is surprised this happened? For a guy who travels through history a lot, he sure doesn't seem to understand it.
You're the one who's always saying never alter the past. Oh, come on, Brian, let's be honest. I frequently alter the past.
Rules for thee, but not for me, I see. But with the return pad destroyed, it looks like they'll need the help of this universe's Stewie. Gotta say, I dig the wood trim on his time machine. Stewie could learn a thing or two about style from his alternate self.
Let's get back to Jamestown and set things right.
I'd say right is kinda subjective. Maybe you should just give guns to everyone to make it fair.
You know how we like to take things back from you people? Well, we're gonna go ahead and take these back.
Good on Stewie for embodying the true spirit of America. He should destabilize a whole country next. And once they make it home, Stewie decides he's had his fill of time travel.
This time machine has almost killed us 100 times, Brian. And yesterday was just too close a call.
Yeah, but did you have to destroy it? You could have sold it for parts or donated it to an orphanage. Let the orphans time travel, I say. So Stewie says goodbye to his crowning achievement, but today isn't all about loss. He's just trading his interest in science for street hockey.
Look at this street hockey net. It's in great shape. You know, we should take this home and set it up.
But don't skimp out on the helmets and padding, Brian. Just trust me on that one.
Brian, look out!
See? This all could have been avoided if Brian had just worn some knee pads.
I'm so sorry, Mrs. Griffin, but Brian's injuries are just too severe for us to save him.
And just like that, Brian exits the show the way all beloved characters should go, with a horrible death.
You've given me a wonderful life. I love you all.
Well, it was nice of them to loan him a copy of It's a Wonderful Life before he died. Definitely on the list of movies you need to see before you get hit by a car.
I've just got to rebuild the time machine, and then I can go back and save Brian.
Sure, but if it were that simple, everybody would be building time machines. But when Stewie visits his supplier of parts at the farmer's market, he finds that he's fresh out.
Titanium capacitors? Sorry, there's no way to get those anymore.
And right in the middle of titanium capacitor season too. How else are people supposed to make their titanium capacitor pies now?
I guess that means Brian is really gone for good.
And the only way to fill the void is with another talking dog, perhaps one of the Italian-American variety.
I'm just a regular guy. You throw a stick, maybe I bring it back. Maybe I bring back an iPhone that fell off a truck.
A new dog and free contraband? Sign me up. Vinny quickly manages to warm up to almost everybody in the family.
What's your name?
Chris?
How about I call you Hat Boy?
Hell yeah!
Almost everyone. Who would have thought Stewie would have a problem with his best friend immediately being replaced?
Everyone in this family is so damn thrilled with you, they've forgotten all about Brian. Well, I'm not thrilled.
To be fair, Vinny isn't as easy a target to dunk on as Brian. Stewie's a boxer without his punching bag.
I know it doesn't seem like it now, but you're gonna be okay.
Yeah, right. How do you know?
He probably read the episode synopsis for the whole season and saw Brian return like 2 episodes later. But for now, Stewie and Vinny decide to give being friends a try.
Bring it in, Stewie.
The reason this episode is ranked so low is that time travel doesn't ultimately play a huge role in the story, but rather the absence of it does. Plus, it just leads to a gimmick used to draw ratings that would almost immediately be reversed. Still, the end result does lead to a heartwarming moment, so it isn't all bad. But what wasn't heartwarming was watching Brian use time travel to try to stop Christianity from existing in the episode Faith No More. So Brian becomes infatuated with a nurse while he's at the vet for reasons beyond her just being a young woman.
Guys don't want a girlfriend who comes home smelling like dog pee. I'm practically a fire hydrant.
Say no more, you've already stolen his heart. But really, please don't say any more about how dogs pee on you. I don't need Brian getting any ideas.
Well, I'm going to a concert this Friday. Wanna come? It's at Quahog Church.
Church?
Oof, she really seemed like an angel to Brian, but he's not exactly into those guys. But Brian's abandoned his morals for less before, so why not try it out here?
You really think you can convince her you're Christian?
Whoa, is that the new Pope? But the facade seems to work well enough as Brian's date invites him back to her place to get a little crazy.
We'll eat sherbet and watch funny State Farm commercials.
Okay, and then we'll have...
Might have pushed your luck there. She was already being rebellious when she said she wanted to watch commercials with you out of wedlock.
Brian, I think you should leave.
But rather than take her recommendation on a great comedy skit show, Brian decides he wants to end religion altogether.
If only I could get rid of Christianity. If only I could go back in time and stop it from ever taking root.
And now for today's story, how Brian stole Christianity. And we thought the Grinch was bad. So Brian teleports back to 30 years after Jesus was born. Thankfully, he didn't go for baby Jesus and, you know.
I'm looking for a rail-thin guy with long hair and sandals.
Buddy, you're gonna have to be more specific.
Long hair, beards. Oh man, was Jesus part of the old age hipster crowd? But Stewie shows up and warns Brian of altering the past in such a dramatic way.
Even the smallest interaction with someone from another time period can alter— Oh my god!
Okay, maybe they can both treat themselves to a little altering. So when Brian finds Jesus, he tries to talk him out of the whole Messiah shtick.
You think I want to do this stuff? I only do it because my dad makes me.
Can you blame him? Every dad wants their son to be the savior of humankind, but most of them just become regional managers of something. A lot of regional managers out here.
Well, if you don't want to be a Messiah, what do you want to do?
Honestly, I want to be a stand-up comedian.
Oh man, dying for everyone's sins may actually be easier. So Brian convinces Jesus to try and follow his passion, but God isn't having it.
A comedian? How could you do this to your mother? What's next? You don't want to marry your very close cousin?
But even the creator of all can't resist a little slow rock about a dad and son. Honestly, it's the easiest way to strike a chord in a dad's heart if you ever need to soften one up.
Oh, hey, they made up.
So with God's blessing, Jesus decides to give this comedy thing a try.
And my mom's a virgin. That's fun. Yeah, when I was a teenager, I had to give her the talk.
But unfortunately, he goes down the path that a lot of comedians go. Laughed at one day, crucified the next.
What happened? He told a joke about Assyrians on a college campus.
Oh yeah, you can't do that anymore.
Geez, the people of 30 were so thin-skinned. But without Jesus, that makes Judaism the dominant religion in the world, and it does seem to have its benefits.
Shalom, Brian. Boy, this town has good medical care.
I don't know why, but seeing Joe stand almost has an uncanny valley effect. Like, it looks human, but not quite. But it looks like this world is best for everyone. Well, almost everyone.
What did you do, you little terps?
Oh my God, God!
Fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it!
Yeah, turns out God likes having his job. He gets them to revert things back to the way it was, and the episode ends on a pretty controversial note. While the journey back to biblical times is quite fun, the heavy-handedness of the anti-religious themes is a bit too cynical to fully get behind. But for something a little less cynical, look no further than when Stewie saved Brian from dying in the episode Christmas Guy. So it's Christmas in Quahog, though it doesn't really feel like it for Stewie.
What's wrong with you, Stoves? You're next up to see the big guy himself and you look like a piece of spaghetti on the street.
Italians are always filled with the most eye-opening proverbs, but it just isn't Christmas for Stewie without his dog by his side.
I don't care about anything except Brian. I want Brian!
Come on, Stewie, it's been 2 whole episodes since Brian died. It's time to move on. Do the reasonable thing and get a tattoo in Brian's memory like that one guy. Vinny tries to cheer Stewie up by adopting more of Brian's mannerisms.
Whose leg do you got a gagoosh to get an amaretto di Serrano around here?
I'd actually prefer my leg ungagooshed if that's alright with you, but it just isn't the same for Stewie.
I appreciate all this, Vinny, but there's only one Brian, and it's tough for me that he's gone.
I guess cloning is off the table? Sure, your attempts weren't perfect in the past, but what's a few more melted bodies until you get it right? But Vinny knows how to get a kid to stop thinking about his dead dog. Buy him a brand new toy.
Okay, Stewie, pick anything you want. I'm me.
Grab the most expensive thing you can find. It's only right, he did offer after all, but before he can, he spots another Stewie in the store.
It's me from the past. Several months ago, I time-traveled ahead to purchase that Christmas toy.
Get this tech to Santa, stat! You could have been saving him from years of holiday stress-induced heart attacks. But if there's a Stewie from another time, that means he has access to a time machine.
Vinny, I need you to get that Stewie to take off his backpack.
Stealing from a baby? Say no more. Vinny doesn't need to know the who, when, where, or any other word that starts with W. So while Vinny distracts him, Stewie manages to grab the other Stewie's time pad.
Now all I've got to do is set the coordinates to the moment before Brian got killed and I can save him!
But if everything goes back to normal, that means Stewie never would have met Vinny. I'd like to believe he doesn't just rot in that dog store, but considering we don't see much of him after this, well, at least he goes out honorably.
Good dog, Vinny. Good dog.
And so Stewie arrives at the exact moment Brian is about to get hit by the car. Cutting it a little close, don't you think? I guess you could always try again if you don't mind seeing Brian die a second time.
You're alive, my friend!
What? Of course I'm alive. What the hell's going on here?
So Stewie explains what happened and how he just had to save Brian as he remains an irreplaceable part of Stewie's existence.
Thank you for saving my life. You know, a lot of other families would have just gotten a different dog and moved on.
Yeah, wouldn't that be wild? So with the timeline restored, this Stewie fades from existence, leaving Brian with a Stewie who may never know what he did for his best friend.
Hey, who are you talking to out here?
A pretty awesome guy.
Well, this Stewie may want to get Brian checked for schizophrenia now, but at least they're both alive. Even though this was a very short turnaround from when Brian died, the episode still uses time travel to create a wholesome and nearly universally liked decision to bring Brian back. Obviously, that was always the plan, but I'd like to think they bumped this episode up sooner because people were complaining super loudly. But it was Stewie's complaining about his family which led him to send himself back in time to change the origins of his birth in Chap Stewie. So Stewie and Rupert are gearing up to watch their favorite fancy show.
It is the season finale of the Cadwalladers of Essex.
The what?
The Cadwalladers of Essex.
Kinda sounds like an allergy medication you buy because it's cheaper than the name brand. But the show's actually about fancy British people being fancy and British.
Everything I've ever heard is vexing.
Oh, this is the fastest moving episode I've ever seen!
If only he could enjoy it, because Peter and Chris are getting ready to have their own little afternoon activity.
Anga bunga, anga bunga.
What is that? What's happening?
Oh, don't act like you've never played Unga Bunga before. It's a game our forefathers have passed down for generations.
Two guys run at each other with mattresses and, that's kind of it.
Sounds easier to understand than football. When are we getting this on ESPN?
Well, Chris, look, Mom's naked.
Where?
You creep.
Well, RIP to Stewie's evening. A fancy British boy needs his daily dose of fancy British TV or else he begins to melt down like Chernobyl.
I want to watch my show!
Maybe all he needs to be cheered up is a little loving.
Do you want a hug from your big sister?
And a little blood. Babies love blood. Don't ask me how I know that.
God, it's a family of idiots! I wish I was never born!
Careful, Stewie. You never know when a genie wanting to grant a wish may be listening. But Stewie doesn't need magic to make this a reality when he has science.
You rebuilt your time machine? I thought you swore off time travel because you couldn't stop yourself from altering the past.
Yeah, but after he made that mistake 100 times, what are the odds he makes one for the 101st time?
I'm going to break up Lois and the Fat Man before they can conceive me.
So Stewie travels back in time to before his conception to find that the family was very different without him. I guess back then the world had no idea what the Family Guy made us do. Rap and fly? Slap and die? So Stewie starts to plant the seeds in order to get Peter and Lois to break up.
Lois, what the hell did you do? I just got a note from Goodwill thanking me for donating all my
Oof, Stewie may have overshot and turned this into a double homicide rather than a breakup. But his plan ends up working and the two actually separate.
It's working! I'm fading away!
I've never seen someone be so happy to be wiped from time and existence, but I'm happy for him. But he's not done with life just yet as he gets reborn into a new family.
Welcome to the world, baby chap.
I'm British?
Finally, now he doesn't have to be a poser faking his accent all the time. So Stewie's now a member of a very wealthy family, seemingly fulfilling every dream he's ever had, but not everyone is happy with him being there.
You were an accident. You're only here because Father is a heavy sleeper with a frequent morning stem.
Well, this is far past the farting on people's heads Stewie was used to when he was a griffin. It turns out that love is a little sparse in these parts.
Why isn't Mommy tucking me in?
Oh, hush, love. You're born now. That's the end of all this mummy nonsense.
I guess things are done differently in England. By the time he turns 5, he'll probably be a successful business owner. But it turns out this may not be all it's cracked up to be.
I don't like it here at all! I miss my family! My dumb family!
So Stewie gets to work on a new time machine made of scraps, only to almost get foiled by his British father.
Stuart! What are you doing?
Ah yes, the Achilles heel of every British man. And probably every man, now that I think about it. So Stewie goes back in time to talk his former self down from changing his history.
But you must believe me, the Griffins are your true destiny.
If someone were to tell me that, I'd probably lose hope for all existence. But Stewie makes a point that despite their flaws, they do care for and love Stewie.
If what you're telling me is true, we can't let them separate. If Peter leaves, I'll be unborn.
Luckily, all it takes is a little reminder of their love to keep Lois and Peter from parting ways.
We're meant to be together. I love you, Peter.
Oh, I love you too, Lois.
This was an interesting one as it gave Stewie everything he ever wanted, but I do wish more of the episode could have been committed to that what-if scenario. But if you ever wondered what things would be like if time were reversed, Family Guy has you covered with Yug Ylimaf, where Brian reversed time and had to fix things before Stewie was erased from history. So Brian's been using Stewie's time machine to pick up chicks, not realizing that the machine keeps track of how many years it's traveled. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the right response. But don't worry, this genius teenager Brian brought along has an idea.
Look, it's no big deal. Just reverse it and take off the miles. That's what I do when I take my dad's car out.
Look, if she's already sleeping with Brian, she can't be that smart. But Brian tries out her idea anyway. And that's why you never take advice from teenagers. Pay taxes and rent a car first, then we'll talk.
What's happening to my time machine?
I don't know, man. I saw Meg leaving a minute ago going mwahahaha, but I don't know.
Well, Meg does laugh nefariously a lot, but the time machine explodes, and when the morning comes around, time seems to be moving in the opposite direction.
My machine seems to have reversed the direction of time.
Forget baby-proofing, everything in Stewie's room needs to be Brian-proofed. While reverse time just seems like a silly little speed bump at first, things manage to get really gross really quickly.
Get that poop-filled thing away from me! No! Oh God, it's cold!
But there are some positives, like seeing a chicken fight in reverse. So you know, the reversal of the entire space-time continuum isn't all bad. But they notice that Cleveland is living across the street, which means either one of two things. The Cleveland show bombed, or time is reversing much faster. Well, I guess two things can be true. So they've really got to clean up this mess.
Oh dear God!
Not really what I had in mind, but I won't say cleaning up all that vomit is a bad thing. But what is bad is that Stewie is starting to notice some changes in himself.
Dear God, I'm unteething!
And Stewie's feeling it firsthand, slowly regressing in age with only one destination in mind. I won't say it for YouTube reasons, but just pick up a health textbook if you don't know what I'm talking about.
I've regressed to my pre-ambulatory stage. I can no longer walk.
And before long, it's Stewie's birthday. I know most kids don't remember their first birthday, but I know Stewie is really gonna want to forget this one.
Brian, help! It's up to you! You've got to restore the flow of time! My life depends on it!
Well, you may as well just accept your fate now if that's the case. So Brian races against the reverse clock to fix the time machine, but he's not fast enough to stop Stewie from returning to whence he came. Man, there's moving back in with your parents, and then there's moving back into your parents. Both are potentially equally traumatizing. Out of options, Brian just decides to do what he did the first time.
And I turn the gauge backward. Maybe if I turn it in the other direction.
And wouldn't you know it, it actually worked, which means Stewie can come on out of there. Just remember to shut the lights off on your way out.
Bloody hell! It's a boy!
The reverse time gimmick of this episode helps to make this one stand out amongst the rest, giving it a slightly more unique premise that leads to a lot of funny ideas and a lot of mental scarring. And for extra fun, why not throw Chris into the mix, like with the episode Stewie, Chris, and Brian's Excellent Adventure, where Stewie, Brian, and Chris go back in time and nearly die on the Titanic. So Principal Shepard calls in Peter and Lois to inform them that Chris is dangerously close to failing.
He has a D- average. His only hope is his history final tomorrow.
Not to worry, Peter can help him study. Once he's done with them, Chris will be ready for a ton of potential future jobs, like human crash test dummy or guy we experiment deadly diseases on.
Now I'm gonna help you study by nailing your door shut. That way you'll have no choice but to hit the books.
And for some reason, this seemed like the perfect time for Lois to send Peter some interesting pictures.
Dad, it looks like some girl sent you a picture of her privates.
Oh crap, Lois, I don't have the phone! Stop sending pictures!
Look, if he can't remember anything he learned in school, surely he won't be able to remember this, right?
Wait a minute, that's both her hands! Who the hell is taking the pictures?
Suddenly that human crash test dummy future is sounding more and more appealing.
You guys, I've been at this all night and I haven't learned a thing.
Well, luckily for him, he's got a genius brother and a dog who, well, his brain is at least functional.
Maybe there's a way to actually show Chris history with my time machine.
You mean that thing that always seems to cause trouble? Perfect plan!
First stop, Washington, D.C. The year is 1803.
Ah, the future.
Uh-huh. Hey, any chance that time machine can perform brain surgery? Kinda seems like where we're headed. Their journey takes them across multiple time periods and countries, from 1920s Paris to the storming of the Normandy beaches, which would go on to be known as Double D-Day. Wait, did I read that right? Well, I failed to see this history covered in Saving Private Ryan. Spielberg, you hack. So, after seeing all this history, what has Chris learned?
That you can't take a good nap with keys in your pocket.
Well, I mean, he's right, but that's not the kind of knowledge that passes tests. That's the kind of knowledge that makes for half-decent stand-up comedy.
Damn it, Chris, your problem isn't book learning, it's that you're a moron! This whole trip has been a complete waste of time!
Believe it or not, Chris did understand some of those words, so he runs off and hops aboard the first boat he can find.
If I'm such a moron, then how did I get on a fancy boat?
Man, everyone always dunks on that boat for the sinking, but always forget that for like 4 days it was the coolest ship on the ocean. And in a couple hours from now, it'll be the coolest ship in the ocean.
We've got to get off this boat. The Titanic was one of the biggest disasters in history.
But not because of all the people who died, because of all the shareholders who lost a little bit of money on it. But before they can teleport home, the ship crashes into that pesky little iceberg. A few days ahead of schedule, but TV only gives you so much time to do things.
Damn! The return pad! It's been destroyed! What? The whole thing's been waterlogged!
Oh great, as if the water wasn't bad enough, there are logs on here too? So the three disguise themselves as women to get a lifeboat spot. They're taking women and children, but that's not going to stop Stewie from playing dress up.
Hello there, sir. We are 3 noble women in distress.
Sorry, boat's full.
Well, if they can't rely on Stewie's beauty and charm, they can at least count on Chris's gorilla strength to save the day.
Get out of my way, you son of a...
This whole ordeal makes Stewie realize that maybe Chris wasn't as dumb as he thought. Okay, he is, but maybe he's smart in some unconventional ways.
You may not be book smart or history smart, but you're throw people off the boat smart.
I hear Yale loves that kind of smart. So it comes time for Chris to take his test, but luckily his teacher happened to have an ancestor who Chris threw off the boat.
Hey everybody, I'm Teacher Doug, and I don't believe in tests.
Yay!
This episode throws a bit of a hook into the usual time travel shenanigans with the addition of Chris, who brings a welcome idiocy that makes everything go wrong. Plus, it uses multiple different time periods to great effect, making the episode feel adventurous like a time travel episode should. But there's nothing more adventurous than saving all of reality, which happens in The Big Bang Theory, as Stewie and Brian both create the universe and have to go back in time to stop Bertram from destroying everything. So Stewie and Brian are fighting over the time machine, which causes them to go all the way back to before existence, well, existed.
Non-existence. No past, no future, no universe.
There's gotta be a 7-Eleven though, right? Those things are everywhere. But Stewie has an idea on how to get them home.
If I overload the return pad's reactor, it might release enough energy to blow us back into the universe.
Oh, but it does a little bit more than just bring them back to reality. It creates reality. Not a bad little tidbit to add to your resume.
Time and space didn't exist until my explosion, which means I created the universe, Brian.
Yeah, good luck trying to understand how that works. I understand it, of course. I'm just saying you might not. Feel free to explain it to me though, and I'll tell you if you're right. So Stewie's looking to upgrade his time machine and needs some plutonium from the farmer's market to do it.
Plutonium at the farmer's market?
Yep, I'm only using organic plutonium now.
What an Earth-conscious guy. This is your friendly reminder to buy your plutonium from mom and pop stores when you have the chance. But when Stewie goes to get more plutonium for his time machine at the farmer's market, yep, you heard that right, he speaks a little too loudly about his device.
So, Stewie Griffin invented a time machine.
Hey, it's Stewie's ball bag buddy, Bertram. Nice of him to show up after 5 years of doing nothing. So later that night, Bertram sneaks into Stewie's room, but gets caught in the act.
I am gonna kill one of your ancestors, effectively erasing you from history!
You know what's a little quicker and not as convoluted? A gun. A knife. Heck, even a plastic bag is probably more effective. But sure, do things the long way, I guess.
Here, play with this. At least you can spend your final moments doing something you enjoy.
That was the easiest sell I've ever seen, Stewie. Is the genius part of your brain still asleep? But as soon as Bertram teleports away, the universe almost immediately begins to collapse.
Bertram didn't know that by removing me from history, I wouldn't be there to be accidentally thrown outside the universe and subsequently created.
So Stewie and Brian head back in time right before Bertram kills Stewie's ancestor.
Where do you think we are?
I don't know. Looks like the Renaissance.
He's right, but he's also speaking like a guy who only knows of the Renaissance. Oh, there are paintings here? Getting real Renaissance vibes from these.
We must be in Leonardo da Vinci's studio.
Who just so happens to be Stewie's ancestor. I guess that football head gene skips a few dozen generations.
So that means you're Italian.
Of course, my love for SpaghettiOs and smoking on the toilet.
And the British accent? Stewie must just be too multicultural for us peons. Da Vinci represents the crux of Stewie's intellectual abilities, so if he dies, so does Stewie.
Who are you, a little lisping baby?
You're assassin, you overrated caricaturist!
Luckily, Stewie saves him, and this leads to a mid-air fight between the half-siblings and Da Vinci's flying machines. How did history not talk about the rockets and missiles? Kinda seems like the coolest part. The two eventually land back on the street, and Stewie tries to talk some sense into Bertram.
So if you kill me, you're killing yourself and everything else that ever existed or will exist.
Worth it!
He's psychotic, but you gotta respect the level of hate. Destroying the whole universe just to kill one guy definitely lands you the title of Hater of the Year. The two brothers tussle back and forth, but Stewie manages to get his hands on the crossbow.
What's your favorite kind of bottled water? Mine's Arrowhead.
Yeah, why don't you dishonor yourself off a bridge, dude? So Bertram's dead, and without Da Vinci, Stewie and the universe itself may soon cease to exist.
The genetic material needed for my creation is inside me, so I'll take Da Vinci's place and pass it on.
So he'll be his own ancestor. It's a few generations removed, so it's not as weird as being your own grandpa like in Futurama. Still a little weird though. Luckily, he's a genius, so he remembers to cryogenically freeze himself under what will become the Griffin House.
Stewie, you okay?
You gotta kiss him to wake him up.
Honestly, after saving the universe and the legacy of Leonardo da Vinci, I think he's earned that kiss. Go ahead and lay one on him, Brian. Again, another great use of time period for jokes and setups, while also throwing in the beginning of time for some existential gags. But Mort being in Poland during World War II sounds like quite the existential crisis, which Brian and Stewie are forced to rescue him from in Road to Germany. So things go awry when Mort mistakes a time machine for a bathroom. A common mistake happens all the time.
Oh, thank God, a porta potty.
And when Stewie notices that his time machine has been used, he and Brian put 2 and 2 together. I just hope they don't find Mort's number 2 in there.
Now we've just got to figure out where we are.
Or when we are.
Oh, that's such a douche time traveler thing to say.
Well, didn't you know Brian's first language is douche? They deduced they're in old Europe, eventually finding their way to a Jewish wedding.
September 1st, 1939. There's something about that date.
Well, who could forget? That's the day famous actress Lily Tomlin was born. I'm sure some other stuff happened, but this was probably the most important thing. But they find Mort attending the wedding, who convinces them to stay a little while and enjoy the festivities.
But Brian, when am I gonna have another chance to see my Grandpa Chaim's wedding with my own eyes?
Sounds like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's too bad the party's getting cut short.
September 1st, 1939. This is the German invasion of Poland.
They try to return home, but of course, the time machine won't work. And unfortunately, they're just a few years shy of the invention of customer support.
Stewie, it's not working!
Yeah, and you know what's not gonna fix it? You're shouting.
Have you tried shouting even louder? My dad always seemed to think that's how stuff gets fixed. Throw in some old-timey swears for good measure, too. Luckily, they're able to make it out of the city on foot, but it's still not the end of their problems.
Unsere Unterseeboots sind stehlen mit einer Dog und Baby und Art Garfunkel!
Sorry, not translating all that, man. Good for you, though. Or sorry that happened to you. So they steal a sub and manage to avoid their pursuers, eventually making it to jolly old England. Which isn't looking too jolly.
Ah, London in wartime. This is history right here, Brian.
Smell that gunpowder in the air? You can't just get this kind of lung poisoning anywhere. So they try to fix the time machine, but there's just one problem.
The transfer circuits are powered by uranium, and this thing is tapped out.
Wait a minute, are you saying we need to find some uranium?
Unfortunate timing. They're just a few years short of when uranium stores become all the rage. They'll just have to find somewhere else to get it from.
There's only one place, at the top secret atomic research facility, in Berlin.
To get there, they decide to join the British Royal Air Force, and when they get into a dogfight with the Germans, they're lent a helping hand by the Hawkmen.
Stand by, my Hawkmen! Die!
If you didn't sleep through history class, you may remember how important the Hawkmen were in the war. But unfortunately for them, their plane takes on too much damage, and they need something to abandon ship with.
A raft? We're not sinking! We're crashing!
Hey, if it's good enough for Indiana Jones, it's good enough for you. There's no way their tailbones aren't shattered, but they're alive and ride the raft all the way to Berlin.
It's here. The uranium lab is in here.
And to get in, they'll need their best cosplay.
Okay, the time machine is refueled. Let's find a safe spot and make the trip back home.
Well, looks like it's over for them. Unless...
Unless what?
Unless they can sing a charming musical number.
Oh yeah, I guess it's been a Road 2 episode with no musical number. Hit it, boys.
Whenever. Damn it, will you two just get in the time machine?
You're no fun, Mort. This is an interesting one because Mort isn't exactly who you'd expect to be the best time travel buddy, but he does have his moments here. And really, this is just a quintessential time travel episode, one that takes advantage of the setting and time period for some solid moments of thrills and comedy. But Meet the Quagmires is about less thrills and more saving a marriage as Peter travels back in time to fix his past, so Lois doesn't end up with Quagmire. So Peter's feeling a bit of regret over not being crazier in his younger days.
I was dating Lois the whole time. I never got to be wild.
Yeah, it's too bad he got sacked with a beautiful, loving wife. He really pulled the short straw in life, huh? But a fall from Horace leads to death showing up, which gives Peter an idea.
Could you let me go back in time and be 18 again?
Is that just something he can do? Peter must be more educated on Grim Reaper lore because I was not aware of that.
Let's go, but just for one night.
So he zaps him back to 1984, where Peter will appear to be 18 to everyone that sees him. It looks like his body dimensions have more or less stayed the same, though. Now to get down to business. Blowing off his future wife.
Lois, we got the rest of our lives for me to not hear a word you just said, but tonight I got plans with Cleveland.
Sure, Lois is upset now, but one day she may realize she just dodged a 300-pound bullet. So Peter enjoys a night out on the town, though it looks like his taste in women hasn't exactly changed.
Molly Ringwald?
Yeah, how's it going?
Wow, you're the biggest star in the world right now.
Yeah, she was the... Who's a big hit with the kids nowadays I can compare her to? Jane Fonda? Well, death eventually returns Peter and Brian home. And don't worry about missing Molly, Peter.
Peter, it's me. Molly, your wife?
Molly Ringwald? You're my wife?
You know, you from a few hours ago would be doing backflips right now if you learned this. Maybe just ride this one out and see where it goes. But if she's his wife and he's her husband, then who's flying the plane? Also, where's Lois?
That's weird. Looks like she's coming out of Quagmire's house.
And she's not running for her life like you may think. She actually ended up marrying Quagmire.
Let's go play schoolgirl and guy who has with schoolgirl.
And when Peter and Brian go over for dinner, they're also introduced to their big-chinned children. As if those kids weren't unsightly to begin with. Peter tries to win Lois back over, but he made this decision long ago when he decided to ditch her to go out and party. Wait a minute, you actually reap what you sow? Since when?
When he kissed me that night at the country club dance, I knew we'd be together forever.
So Peter enlists Death's help to take him back and make things right, but attempt...
Crap! Death!
After attempt...
Death!
After attempt...
Oh, crap! Death!
You know, maybe it'll just be easier on the universe if Peter and Lois don't get together.
You know what? I'm not doing it again. Screw this! No more mulligans! You're on your own!
So it looks like Peter will have to apologize to Lois. Like that's ever fixed anything before.
Lois, I'm so sorry. I promise I'll make it up to you tonight. We can watch any stupid movie you want.
Sorry, I've already got plans.
And those plans rhyme with Quagmire. Good luck deciphering that riddle. So if Peter doesn't lock in, the entire life that he knows will disappear from existence.
Peter! Oh God, sorry.
We should really be asking ourselves if Peter deserves to be happy. So Peter infiltrates the dance to make one last love declaration to Lois, who makes it clear she doesn't want anything to do with him.
You had your chance with me and you blew it. Now leave us alone.
Well, I guess it's time to jump from Plan B all the way to Plan P. And yes, the P stands for punch.
Hey, Quagmire!
Huh?
And somehow this act of violence activates the part of Lois's brain that covers lust and desire as she ends up in Peter's arms.
Oh, Peter! That was so passionate. Well, I didn't know I meant that much to you.
So with their love saved and their future restored, there's only one way to end this. Brian, rickroll these suckers. Even if this does feel like a Back to the Future knockoff at times, this is still a super solid use of the time travel premise, giving us what-if futures and towing the line of just how dumb Peter can get. Plus, this is the only episode to not involve Stewie in his time machine, so that's gotta count for something too. But the best time travel episode takes the tried and true idea of Stewie in his time machine and uses it to travel to Family Guy's past, in the episode Back to the Pilot. So Stewie decides to use his time machine to help Brian find a tennis ball he buried years ago.
I remember the exact day, January 31st, 1999.
He can remember the exact day, month, year, and the humidity of that day, but not where the ball is buried. Dog minds are fascinating things. So they return to the past to find it with a bit lower budget than they're used to, and with some different voices.
What's with Meg's voice? She sounds like someone who's about to give up a huge opportunity.
I'm sure the star of Netflix's Hot Frosty is doing just fine, thank you. But there are even more differences, like the fact that the family just stands there during cutaways.
They're setting up cutaways.
Oh my god, is that what we did back then?
This is probably why we should never time travel. Seeing our past selves has a very high percentage of causing death by cringe. So they find where the ball is buried and plan to head back, but Brian has some business to attend to first.
Will it screw up the timeline if my future pee goes in a past toilet?
No, as long as it goes in the toilet.
And not one drop can land on the ground, or boom, World War V. A war so terrible it skips past World Wars III and IV. But unfortunately for Stewie, he accidentally runs into his past self.
You look like me, but that's utterly impossible. I'm afraid it's true. I'm you from the future.
He was so young back then, what with his rough pencil edges and his big bulbous horse eyes. Stewie tries to pull Brian out of his hiding spot, but he falls onto Peter's car as he drives to the iconic stag party.
Hey, who wants to play Drink the Beer?
Right here.
You win!
All right, what do I win?
Another beer!
They really should bring that game back after all those years. It's like a wise man once said, the one thing I love about beer. The one thing I love about beer is that it's always time for another sip. The one thing I love about beer. Words to live by. They eventually make it home, but it's clear someone didn't get the memo about not changing anything in the past.
Brian, there you are. Come quick, they're about to announce the unveiling of your statue on the news.
Usually you've got to be either a good person or dead to get a statue, and neither of those two words describes Brian presently.
I may have told my former self about 9/11.
Okay, so there's good and bad here. The bad is that Brian is now a national hero, but the good is that a national tragedy was averted. So that's probably a net positive.
I bet 5 years from now, the world will still be better off for what I did.
Is that so?
So they hop 5 years into the future to test that theory, finding everything to be a bit more lazy and round.
Chris, I heard you got a D on your report card. Here's a cutaway. Matthew McConaughey is terrible.
Could this actually be a little commentary on how animation isn't infinitely better when it isn't 2D? Obviously, as someone who lives in the 2D world, I'm a little biased, but that isn't the worst part.
Oh my god!
Can't believe I'm saying this, but they've got to go back and stop Brian from stopping a huge tragedy. The greater good and all that.
Shut it!
So they go to the past to stop their past selves from speaking to their further past selves, and it just goes off the rails from there.
We're from the further future. What these two do is fine. It's what you two do that makes things worse.
Who would have thought you'll never be able to please every universe? It seems so easy on paper, so they just decide to put things to a vote.
How many think we should prevent 9/11? Raise your hands.
Out of context, this probably looks really bad, but they reach an agreement to not interfere with human history, so now they just have to tie up some loose ends with the first Brian and Stewie.
Get the back in your time machine!
This is a quintessential time travel episode, complete with great throwbacks and a ton of confusing time travel hoopla. Not only that, but it allows the show to poke fun at its humble beginnings while also toying around with what a hypothetical future Family Guy may look like. But if you want your future to be filled with more Family Guy content, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on the new videos we post every week.